Taurus, welcome to your astrology reading for the month of April. And so before I get started, I do this using whole signs. So this is going to be most applicable for your rising sign. You can run a free birth chart. You just need to know all of your information, including the time that you're born, because that is significant to understand where does your rising sign fall, what sign occupies your rising sign. Your rising sign is how other people perceive you. Your sun sign is how you express yourself, so it is still important from that perspective. And then from a moon sign standpoint, this is your emotional lens. This is how you process everything through that lens. And so jumping right into April, not a surprise here. So April is a mix of Aries and Taurus energy. And for you, this is going to impact your 12th house. So Aries is sitting in your 12th house of the subconscious. And then Taurus is obviously your first house. That's who you are. It's just again, this is your rising sign. If you're listening to your rising sign, this is the same house as your rising sign. And so this is how other people perceive you when they meet you. And so right away, April Fool's Day at 6:14 in the evening Eastern time, we have Mercury stationing retrograde. So the shadow period actually started on March 18th. So we've already been in some of this energy, but now it's like fully retrograde. And so the difference between it being retrograde and it being direct has to do with whether it's an outward expression. So that would be the direct energy versus an inward expression. That's the retrograde energy. And so this retrograde is going to last until the 25th when it stations direct. But the post shadow, so kind of coming down off of that, is going to last until the 13th of May. So just keep that in mind. We're going to be in this energy pretty much the month of April. Pretty common. We have this several times a year. And so when this happens, when Mercury is retrograde in Aries, we'll have Mercury, Chiron, Sun, and North Node all in Aries. And so the North Node is going to be significant a little bit later on when we talk about the eclipse this month. And so for right now, when I talk about Mercury will be retrograde. It will also be square Pluto in Aquarius. And so for you, the impact here, Mercury in Aries for you is going to be a lot of internal reflection on yourself. This is a lot of subconscious things, hidden secrets, things like that. Pluto in Aquarius is connected to your career. And so with this square, it feels a lot like how you see yourself doesn't line up at all. There's some obstacles and challenges, the way you see yourself and the way that you are at work. There is something about your perception of yourself, the way you see yourself, and the way that you have this public reputation here. And so it is a square. There is some sort of change that needs to happen in that public reputation, because that is where that Pluto energy is sitting. That is the planet of transformation. And so there is going to be some sort of liberating change here, but it's a square. So you are going to have to act on it. This is an obstacle or challenge. You can overcome it. It's not something that is going to be, oh my God, complete block to you doing anything. It's not like that at all. You can overcome this. All squares you can overcome. We'll also have Mercury conjunct Chiron in Aries. And so Mercury in Aries, again, this is all about that subconscious. For you, Chiron is sitting in the same house, same sign. Chiron is the wounded healer. So there's some sort of subconscious healing that needs to take place. There's some maybe internal self-talk that you don't even realize you're having. Or this could be related to maybe something in your childhood where somebody always said, referred to you in a certain way and it was negative, it was derogatory. There was something negative connected to your past that created some sort of wound within your psyche that is coming to the surface. There's something here that needs to be addressed. Mercury, you're starting to understand what this wound is. And I say that because when we have all of these eclipses, so we'll have had the Libra eclipse on the 25th. I'm recording this right before the 25th, so it hasn't quite happened yet, but that is kind of the energy, is you're going to start realizing it before we get to April 1st. But when we get to April 1st, now it's like, okay, now you're going to really start understanding it on a much more deep level and much more internalized level. Then on the 5th, we'll have Venus enter Aries. And so that's going to happen at midnight Eastern time. So obviously if you're West Coast, it's going to happen on the 4th. But when this happens, we'll have Mercury, Chiron, Sun, Venus, and again, the North Node all in the sign of Aries. And so what this means here right away, Venus will be conjunct Neptune and Pisces. So Venus in Aries, this is about what you value when it comes to who you are. This is really your internal value system. How do you see yourself? How do you want to see yourself? How do you process everything through that subconscious lens? And again, this is where the old wounds are being triggered and showing you how you've been processing things, because it's subconscious. You're not aware of it when it's happening, but you might think of it after the fact, which you're getting to the point of thinking of it after the fact. And so Neptune in Pisces is actually occupying your 11th house. And so this is about your friends. When it comes to how you see yourself, how does that relate to what you want in your friend circle? How do you want to be seen among your friends? How does this connect here? Because this energy is a blending of energies. It is about aligning them completely. You want your friends to see you in the way that you see you, but you want to see yourself in a positive light. You want to see yourself through that lens of worth and self-value. That's what you want here. That's what this Venus conjunct Neptune is doing. Venus will also be sextile Pluto in Aquarius. And again, so we've got this subconscious coming to the surface that you're now understanding that you didn't understand until now, or maybe didn't really understand until now. And with this sextile energy, so this is giving you an opportunity. So it's not a square. This is giving you an opportunity to make some changes to your reputation at work, to that outward facing, career oriented reputation. And so this is really, it's an opportunity for you to say, oh, well, I see myself this way, but maybe I haven't been projecting myself this way at work. What do I need to do here? This is where you're being given an opportunity to make those changes in the workplace so that people can see you the way that you see you. Then we have the solar eclipse. So this is a new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Aries, and this is going to happen on the 8th. And so the eclipse itself is going to happen at 2:17 p.m. Eastern Time. The new moon is going to be exact at 2:21, so just 4 minutes later, but they are at different times, so I just want to highlight that. And so this is a lot of Aries energy happening here. So we'll have the sun, the moon, Mercury is retrograde, we'll have Chiron, Venus, and the North Node, so this is the eclipse. These are fated events, that's what the eclipse is. And here we'll have, this is a really interesting combination because we have the sun, the moon, and Chiron all at the same degree point. They're all at 19 degrees of Aries, which means they're essentially on top of each other. The energies here are very blended. And so we know about the moon, we know that's our emotions. We know about the sun, that's how we express ourselves. But then Chiron is the wounded healer. And so what's happening is all of these wounds are coming to the surface. There's a lot of highlighting from the sun. There's a lot of emotional feeling what these wounds do to you. Chiron is bringing all of this to the surface, and it's happening here on the 8th. And so for you, again, this is impacting your 12th house. So this is impacting your subconscious, where all of these things have been hidden and you've maybe not thought about it. It's just innate to who you are. This is all being given that spotlight. So you can make some sort of change here. So you can make some adjustments to who you are internally. And then from there, it always kind of bubbles out externally. Then that never just stays inside. And so just keep that in mind here, because the moon is also going to be conjunct Mercury. And so this Mercury retrograde is that internal introspection of yourself, is that internal processing. So you're really processing the wound here. You're really trying to feel through what this is doing to you, the impact that it has on your life. It's not just a cerebral thing with that Mercury energy. With the moon energy here, you're definitely feeling through whatever is happening. Mercury will also be square Pluto in Aquarius. So as all these wounds are coming to the surface, this is square, so it is an obstacle or challenge, but it does relate again to your career and public reputation. And so this is also showing you that maybe some of these wounds, how did they hold you back? How did they hold you back in your career? Were you afraid of being seen differently? Were you afraid of being judged inappropriately or derogatory or like negatively in some sort of way? Because that's what's coming to the surface here. And again, it's an obstacle or challenge. This is something that you can overcome. Then we'll have the sun enter Taurus. So that's going to happen on the 19th at 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And so when it happens, we'll have the sun, Jupiter, and Uranus all in the sign of Taurus. The sun will be conjunct Chiron, but Chiron's in Aries. And so what this is doing here, so the sun in Taurus is really highlighting what you value. Chiron in Aries is again that wound that's coming to the surface. And so for you, it's that internal subconscious wound coming to the surface as it relates to who you are physically. So where I said it doesn't just stay internal, there is this outward manifestation of everything, not just the wound, but the healing process. And so that's what's actually coming to the surface here, is that your wounds are coming to the surface. And now you're fully understanding, well, how does that impact me physically? Because it might impact you physically. You might have physical ailments or illnesses that are related to these wounds that you didn't even realize. That would be something that would be highlighted here. We'll also have the Sun square Pluto in Aquarius. And again, so this is about your career. This is about anything as it relates to, again, so thinking through all of these wounds that are coming to the surface. They have this outward manifestation, so how you're expressing yourself, but now you're seeing how you express yourself and how you express yourself at work, because that is connected here. These wounds have been holding you back from expressing yourself authentically when it comes to your work. This is where you want to make the change. You want to make the change here in your career and public reputation to align with who you are, who you really are, because I don't think that they're seeing the real you up until now. Well, then on the 20th, we'll have Jupiter conjunct Uranus. And so that's going to happen at 10:27 at night, Eastern time. And so Jupiter conjunct Uranus, I watch a lot of tarot videos, and this has been coming up in some of them. And the reason that I'm highlighting it here is because Uranus is the planet of sudden change. It is. And Jupiter is the planet of expansion. And so for you, this is happening in your first house. And so this is your first house of self. This would be changes that you want to make to yourself so that you can grow as a person. That's what this is really coming down to for you. And so really kind of seeing the truth of who you are, who you want to be, that's all coming to the surface. And again, this is on the heels of this eclipse and all this wound in, energy and information coming to the surface, and you're understanding and processing all of that now. And so you're being given an opportunity here to make changes that align with your growth, with where you want to be and who you want to be. And then on the 23rd, we'll have the full moon in Scorpio. So that's going to happen at 7:49 p.m. Eastern time. And so when we have this, we have the sun and the moon, they're at opposite points in the sky. And so the moon is in the sign of Scorpio, and Scorpio is the death and rebirth. It is transformation. There's a lot more to it, but I'm just going to focus on the transformation piece. And then with the sun in Taurus, this is about what you value and what grounds you into life. And so for you, the impact here, the moon in Scorpio is your 7th house. Obviously Taurus energy is in your 1st house. And so 7th house is your one-on-one relationships. These are your personal relationships. Usually a marriage if you're married, but it could also be contracts, negotiations, things like that. And so what you want from your one-on-one relationships and how you express yourself, they're in opposition. So the changes that you've been making to yourself are going to have an impact on this all of your one-to-one relationships. It's going to impact you across the board. This one's being highlighted during the full moon here. And so really about what transformation are you looking for in your relationships? How are the changes that you're making to yourself? How are these wounds coming to the surface to be healed? How does that impact your one-to-one relationships? What changes are happening there? They're all connected. All of this energy is tied together. It's never just a stop and start. So there is going to be an impact here. We'll also have the moon in Scorpio square Pluto in Aquarius. And so this, for you, again, Pluto in Aquarius, this is the changes in your relationships as they relate to your career. I mean, this is really coming down to your public reputation. Any kind of emotional transformation is being highlighted here. Again, the really significant piece is about your relationships and your interpersonal relationships, those one-to-one relationships. Could be marriage, doesn't have to be marriage. Then we'll have Mercury station direct. So that's going to happen on the 25th at 8:54 in the morning Eastern time. And so again, the post shadow is going to end mid-May, so May 13th. In Aries, because other planets have been moving on, we'll have Venus, Chiron, and Mercury in Aries. And so Mercury is actually going to be conjunct Venus. And so now where Mercury was retrograde and you were doing a lot of internal processing, now this is going to be that outward conversation, outward processing of information. that is going to be taking place here. And so with Venus and Aries, this again is coming down to Venus. What do you value? And for you, that internal subconscious. And so now you're being given an opportunity to maybe speak about some of these changes, some of these wounds that have been coming to the surface, something that has been highlighted to you that needs to be healed as some sort of trigger. And how does that impact all the areas of your life? With this Mercury in Venus, it's really kind of giving you this opportunity to have some sort of grounding conversation and really say, well, what I value, here's what's happening, and here's why it's changing, and here's why I'm healing from it. Because in order for me to go after what I want, I have to do this. In order for me to go back into balance with myself, because that's what Venus is, it's a balancing energy, it's a bringing things together. In order for me to have what I want, I need to do this. Then we'll have Venus enter Taurus. So that happens on the 29th at 7:32 in the morning Eastern time. And so when it happens, we'll have the Venus, Sun, Uranus, and Jupiter all in the sign of Taurus. Venus is the ruler of Taurus. So you're welcome. Here we'll have Venus conjunct the Sun. So this again, all about your first house. So this is what you love about yourself, what you love about your physical self. This is your outward manifestation of yourself, your outward appearance. And again, just being highlighted here. And so a lot of growth opportunities is what this feels like, because you've been really focused on these internal changes, these internal wounds. But those internal wounds that are coming to the surface, those subconscious wounds that are now becoming conscious, they do have an impact on your physical body. And so now you're really being given an impact to show some self-love. That's what this is all about. Really love who you are, what you look like, everything about you. All the changes that are taking place, it is about embracing all of that. And we'll have Venus conjunct Chiron in Aries. And again, this is really, it's the same energy of being able to align the wounds and healing from the wounds at a subconscious level. And how does that manifest on your physical person? Then we'll also have Venus and the Sun will both square Pluto and Aquarius. And so Pluto and Aquarius, again, impacting your house of career. And so the changes that you're making, those wounds that you're healing, how does that show up at work? How do you make those changes? Because that's an obstacle or challenge. There is a disconnect between your public reputation at work and who you are and who you're becoming, the changes that you're making to yourself. And so this is about you needing to take action here in order to overcome the obstacle or challenge. And then at the end of the month, on the 30th at 11:33 in the morning, we'll have Mars enter Aries. And so when that happens, we'll have Chiron, Mercury, and Mars all in the sign of Aries. Mars is the ruler of Aries. And so what's happening here is right away, Mars and Aries conjunct Neptune and Pisces. Mars and Aries is really the same type of energy. This Mars energy is action-oriented. Not afraid to cut something loose if it just doesn't work, if it just doesn't fit. Mars is the god of war, and so think of it from that lens. Neptune in Pisces is all about your goals, all about your dreams. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, and so this is a lot of that really same energy happening here. And they're conjunct, even though they're in different signs, even though they're in different placements on your chart, the energy here is blended. So this is a lot about actions you want to take in order to further your dreams, in order to further your goals. And so this is about your 12th house energy. So all of this subconscious, all of these wounds coming to the surface that you want to heal as they relate to not your career reputation, but your reputation with your friends, your circle of friends. This is really giving you an opportunity. How do you want to be seen in your circle of friends? What kind of relationships do you want to have with them? This is where all of this is going to be blending together. So it's giving you this and conjunct. It's going to happen naturally here, but the changes that you're making are now going to start to feel like your friends understand what's happening to you, whereas maybe they didn't before. And so this is really, really highlighting that energy. Then we also have Mars sextile Moon in Aquarius. And so the Moon in the sign of Aquarius, this is emotional change. Aquarius is liberating, so it will break free any barriers. That's just the sign of Aquarius, and the Moon is your emotions. So we've got Mars sextile the Moon. So what you're doing is you're getting some sort of opportunity here within your subconscious to make those changes in your career and public reputation. So all along you're being given some sort of earlier in the month, it was showing up as like an obstacle or challenge, all these changes that you're making. Now you're being given an opportunity to actually make those changes in your career and public reputation. And so where before it felt really challenging to do it, Now it's going to be less challenging. It's an opportunity, so you do have to take action if you want to make changes in your public reputation, in your career. We'll also have Pluto. So it's not just sextile the moon, it's going to be sextile Pluto. And so again, anything here, any barriers to you making those changes, into maybe expressing those changes, that's all going to be removed. We'll also have Mars sextile Jupiter, and Jupiter's in the sign of Taurus. And so Jupiter in Taurus is all about expanding what matters the most to you, really thinking of it through that kind of very earth energy, very grounded, but what you value lens. And so for you, again, value what you value about yourself. These internal changes, this cutting away of something here subconsciously. So that wound, this would be cutting away that wound. It would be healing from that wound as it relates to your person, your physical person. So you're being given an opportunity to really align your inner person with your outer person. So Taurus, this is your reading for the month of April. I hope it resonates. If it did, please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.